Hey, what's going on guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the Nike Free Metcon 5. So 3 pros that come along with the Nike Free Metcon 5 is number 1, if you are wanting a shoe for versatile training with some light running and some light to moderate strength work blended together on a weekly basis, this can be a pretty good option to look into. So you get a nice responsive feel with the Nike Free midsole, and it's stable enough to train up to like 275 pounds. So if you're not planning to go crazy heavy with your strength work and you want a shoe primarily for HIIT and class style workouts, I find the Nike Free Metcon 5 to be a pretty dang strong performer. It also does a pretty good job with its overall traction on different surfaces. So if you train on turf, wooden floors, or rubber gym floors, this model should fit the bill pretty well, especially if you're doing any form of like dynamic movement. The second pro that I have with this shoe is that Nike reworked the upper in this model and gave it a more spacious fit through the midfoot and forefoot. So with this model, it definitely feels a little bit wider, and I think a lot of that's due to the upper volume. So if you found the Nike Free Metcon 4 to fit a little bit snug like me, I think you will resonate with the Nike Free Metcon 5. I find that I even have enough room in this shoe if I'm wearing thicker socks, which I personally love. So if I'm going sockless or with socks, I have plenty of room in this model. So if you have like a medium or neutral width foot or even a slightly wider foot, you should be able to fit into this model compared to its predecessor, the Nike Free Metcon 4, a little bit better. The third pro that I have with this shoe is I like that Nike reworked the tongue construction up here. So it did kind of worry me with its overall durability, but honestly, this shoe has been stellar thus far. So I don't think durability is going to be a major concern with this shoe, but with this reworked tongue up here, basically, you still have a booty style construction, but with this slit, it makes this shoe a lot easier to get on. With the Nike Free Metcon 4, and I know I'm not the only one who had this issue, if I had like a sweaty foot and I was wearing either a thin no-show sock or training sockless, that shoe was nearly impossible to get back on if you ever took it off. So I like this reworked feature. It makes this shoe a lot easier just to slip on. So I'll typically leave these a little bit looser if I'm gonna wear them for daily wear and just pop them on and off. And I like that feature because it also gives the midfoot, I think, a more spacious fit. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have with the Nike Free Metcon 5. This is Maui. He is the bestest boy, and he said that if you like fitness, shoes, and dogs, you should subscribe to this channel. With that being said, back to the review. So 3 cons that I could see folks having with the Nike Free Metcon 5 is number 1, the shoe is going to have some limitations. So if you want a shoe for heavier lifting and for some CrossFit style work, you're gonna wanna pass on this shoe. Once I got past 275 pounds, I started to notice that the midsole compressed in this shoe. Honestly, when doing a clean complex at 225 pounds, I also wasn't the biggest fan of how this forefoot engaged with the ground. So if you want a shoe that's gonna have more stability and have a little bit more of an upper resiliency to it, that might be something to consider. And just note that the shoe is gonna have some limitations in the gym. The second con that I could see folks having with the shoe is that if you weren't a fan of that blockier heel in the Nike Free Metcon 4, you're not gonna likely like the heel in the Nike Free Metcon 5. It's a little bit blocky at times. It's kind of like what I would call a horse hoof. I don't mind it for all of my training sessions, but honestly, this is a feature that I wish would have been reworked in this model because I think Nike could do better, especially when it comes to the flow of the heel and how that offers stability versus making this kind of like really blocky heel that kind of juts out of the back of the shoe. So I'm not the biggest fan of that feature. I know some folks like it, but honestly, I feel like Nike could do a little bit better in that context. The third con that I could see folks having with this shoe is that if you're somebody who really loves the fit of the Nike Free Metcon 4, and that shoe fits you like a glove and you really enjoy the overall width and how that upper feels on your foot, I don't think you're gonna like the Nike Free Metcon 5. I've had some folks already comment on my last video talking about how this model feels more big and spacious and it doesn't really fit their foot very well. So if you have a notably narrow foot, that would be something to consider. And this is for folks who already wear the Nike Free Metcon 4 and find that shoe to fit really well versus a little bit too snug like in my context. So definitely some food for thought with this shoe. But now let's talk about the performance of this model. So when it comes to the performance of the Nike Free Metcon 5, I'm gonna break this section to a few different parts. I'll talk about this model's performance for lifting, versatile training, shorter runs, and daily wear. In the context of lifting, the shoe does an okay job. So if you're only planning to go like light or moderate in the gym with your strength training in this shoe, it should do a pretty good job for your overall needs. So for example, if you're gonna be doing dumbbell and kettlebell accessories in this shoe, or some light barbell work even, this model will be okay. I would suggest probably capping your loading to about like 275 pounds on like squats and deadlifts. And then for more dynamic work, you'll have to feel that out. But I wasn't a fan of loading more than 225 pounds in the shoe when doing things like barbell cleans. So again, this model is not necessarily designed for maxing out your you're lifting. And if you do want a Nike shoe for lifting and heavier sessions at that, look into like the Nike Metcon 8 or Nike Metcon 7, because those shoes will be better poised for your overall needs in that context. When it comes to versatile training, I really enjoyed this shoe. I like the overall maneuverability of the forefoot and how much flex it gives you, and I also like that the upper is a little bit more spacious. It gives your foot a little bit more room to breathe and just move, so I really like that I have a little bit more width, it seems, through the forefoot in the shoe, especially for like jumping, where I do want a little bit more of a base to really drive through the forefoot with. And the outsole does a pretty good job with traction on different surfaces, so that's also a perk. Now I will say there is some exposed foam on the midfoot of the shoe, so if you're gonna be doing versatile sessions outside on the concrete, that would definitely be something to consider. And also something that I have noticed with this shoe is that when you go into like a harsh flex with the toe up here, you do see some exposed glue, so that is kind of a little bit of a sloppy feature from Nike. I haven't noticed any breakdown issues yet, but definitely something to keep an eye on with your model, especially if you're gonna be doing a lot of forefoot driven like sled work, where you could separate some of this glue on the sole of the shoe. When it comes to shorter runs, this model should do an okay job if you're planning to do like 1, 2, maybe 3 miles tops. This is not necessarily my favorite model for longer runs, but if you're gonna be doing like a warm up or cool down run at a nice casual pace, the shoe should do an okay job. My only knock against this shoe for that running context is this block of your heel. If you are a heel striker, this might be a little bit uncomfortable at times, but for my forefoot and midfoot strikers out there, or if you're just gonna be using this shoe for short runs or sprint work, this model should do an okay job. When it comes to daily wear, I like this shoe for the most part, and so if you want a shoe to wear out and about and run errands in and then wear to the gym, I see the Free Metcon 5 as being a pretty good option. I was recently in Mexico last weekend and I was wearing these for pretty much all day walking around, and I found them to be pretty comfortable. I never found myself like longing to basically take them off like some other trainers that I have, so I do think that they can be a decent option for walking and whatnot. I would just say be very conscious of this exposed foam if you're wearing these in inclement weather, because if you're walking, for example, in puddles or dirt, that could break down this foam a little bit faster, so definitely keep an eye on that if you plan to use this shoe for walking, standing, and you're just basically using every single day on top of your training. Overall though, I have enjoyed the Nike Free Metcon 5. I think it's a step in the right direction for this shoe line, and with the reworked upper you get a little bit more space, so I do think it's a little bit more comfortable in the context of different training settings. So when it comes to the price of the Nike Free Metcon 5, you can expect to pay $120 USD. This is consistent with the prior models in this shoe line. I think if you're wanting a shoe for classes and hit style work with some light running and strength work blended in, I think the price point does make sense for the shoe, especially when you compare it to other models that are designed to do the same thing on the market. Plus, these shoes do tend to last a while, especially if you take good care of them and you're only primarily wearing them for training and for daily wear in drier climates. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should invest in the Nike Free Metcon 5? So I think if you're somebody who's looking into Nike shoes and you want a shoe for some versatile training with, again, some light running, some light strength work blended in, the Nike Free Metcon 5 can be a pretty good option. I also see this as a really good shoe for somebody who wants a singular model to wear out and about on a daily wear basis and then to the gym. Again, just be very conscious of the weather that you're gonna be wearing these in with the exposed foam on the midsole. And then lastly, I also think that if you found the Nike Free Metcon 4 to fit a little bit too snug and you needed a little bit more room in that model, but you still liked how that shoe fit and performed in the gym, then the Nike Free Metcon 5 will be a really good option for you because it is going to be a little bit more spacious through the upper. Now, who shouldn't buy the Nike Free Metcon 5? I think if you're primarily wanting a training shoe for heavier lifting and CrossFit, pass on the Nike Free Metcon 5. It's not going to offer you the stability and durability that you want for those training contexts. I also think that if you do have a notably narrow foot, once again, and you really resonate with the Nike Free Metcon 4's fit, you might not like the Nike Free Metcon 5. So it might be worth actually sticking with another 4 if you're due for another model and trying to find that model on sale, because you likely can at this point. So definitely not a bad choice if that sounds like your foot anatomy. So when it comes to the sizing and fit in the Nike Free Metcon 5, I think most folks should be safe going true to size in this model. So the length runs pretty true in my opinion, and the width is like what I would describe as like medium to slightly wider. I have a slightly wider foot width and this model fits me pretty dang well, and the upper should also stretch out a little bit more for you. But again, I think if you do have a notably narrow foot, you might want to stick with the Nike Free Metcon 4 versus trying to like size this shoe differently, because if you know that model already works for you, I would just say stick with that, because why fix it if it's not broken? All right, so now let's cover the weight, heel toe drop, and insole in the Nike Free Metcon 5. For my size 10 model here, we have a weight of 11.35 ounces. The heel to toe drop in this shoe is 5 millimeters, and this model does come with a thin foam removable insole. All right, so now let's break down the construction of the Nike Free Metcon 5. Up here on the toe, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up. I like that it biases the medial side. It gives you a little bit more surface area and grip here on the big toe. Looking at the toe box of this shoe, we have a synthetic overlay covering the toe box, and then we have a mesh upper that runs through the forefoot into the midfoot. At the midfoot here, we have some textile and synthetic overlays. It's a little bit more structured back here on the boot compared to the forefoot up here. The forefoot is pretty breathable. And then looking at the midfoot construction, you have 4 core eyelets that run up, and then you have a booty style construction, but we do have that slit here, so it does make the shoe a little bit easier to get on. And overall, I find the midfoot security to be pretty good in the shoe, despite being a little bit more spacious than the other model and only having 4 eyelets. Back here on the heel, we have a little bit of a light TPU layer to give you a little bit more support and base back here in the heel, especially in the context of more lateral training. Looking at the midsole in this model, we have the Nike Free midsole that runs throughout. This is the exact same midsole construction pretty much as the Nike Free Metcon 4, so you can expect something very similar. You have a nice maneuverable forefoot and then a little bit more of a blockier and stable heel. The midsole on this model does come up a little bit on the lateral and medial side. This gives you a little bit of additional base here too when it comes to lateral training. Looking at the outsole of this shoe, you have a rubber tread up here in the forefoot, you have some exposed foam here in the midfoot, and then you have rubber tread back here on the heel. Overall, I find this shoe to give you enough grip in most contexts. I do think the exposed foam here though in the midfoot and on the lateral and medial side of the forefoot, that could be problematic if you're doing a lot of work outside on concrete, so definitely keep an eye on that. But as you can see, this midsole here has a good level of responsiveness to it, and that's why it's not going to be the most stable in the gym for heavier loading. And then looking at the insole, once again, you do have a thin foam removal insole, and the heel to toe drop in the shoe is 5 millimeters. If you have additional questions on this model, drop a comment down below. All right guys, so that wraps up my review of the Nike Free Metcon 5. Overall, I do find this shoe to be a step in the right direction for the Nike Free Metcon training shoe line. The updates on this model are quality of life improvements in my opinion. I do wish they'd rework the heel, but hopefully we'll see that in the 6, not to get too ahead of myself here. But if you have any questions on the Nike Free Metcon 5, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always guys, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.